I have had this for a bit now, and a few people asked me about it, so here is my take. At its core, this is a portable power station. It is a battery in a box with a bunch of outlets, meant for times when you want power but you are not near a wall plug, or when the wall plug stops working. I have been using it for a mix of normal home stuff, some work gear, and a couple of short outdoor days. If you are looking for something to keep phones, laptops, lights, a fan, and small electronics running, this kind of unit makes sense. If you are trying to run high-draw kitchen appliances or power tools for long stretches, this is not that type of product, and I think it is important to be clear about that. What made me interested in this one is the balance. It is small enough that I can move it around without thinking too hard, but it still has enough output to run devices that actually matter in real life, like a television, a fan, or a laptop charger, without instantly shutting down. The battery capacity is 299 watt-hours, and the continuous output is up to 600 watts. Those numbers only matter because they explain what I saw in use. With a 100-watt television, I got around 2.5 hours before it was basically time to recharge. With a light that pulls around 30 watts, it went for most of an evening. With a fan around 50 watts, it held up for several hours. That lines up with what I would expect, and it also tells you the honest limitation. You still need to pay attention to what you plug in, and you need to think in terms of hours, not days. In person, it feels like a compact block with a handle built into the top area. It is not something I would call heavy for what it is, but it has enough weight that it feels like a real battery and not an empty plastic shell. The casing feels solid. I have moved it from room to room, put it on a desk, slid it under a table, and it has held up fine. The ports feel snug, not wobbly. The buttons have a simple click to them. Nothing about it feels delicate, but I still would not toss it in the back of a vehicle with no padding and expect it to look perfect. The layout is straightforward once you spend a day with it. There are alternating current outlets for plugging in normal home chargers and small appliances, and there are direct current options for things like car-style accessories. On the front there is a display, and that display ends up being a big part of daily use. I find myself checking it constantly because it tells me the remaining battery and the current power draw. That is what changes this from guessing to actually managing your usage. You can tell when something is sipping power versus when something is draining it. The part I use the most is the universal serial bus section. There are universal serial bus type C ports, and there is a universal serial bus type A port. What I like here is that it negotiates power properly. In normal life terms, it means I can plug in a phone, a tablet, or a laptop, and it does not do anything weird. It does not get hot in a scary way. It does not rapidly connect and disconnect, and it does not act like it is confused about what it is charging. I tested it with my Poco F4 Golf Tango because that phone will pull serious power when fast charging. The display showed roughly 53 watts while it was charging, and it climbed quickly. That is the kind of thing I care about because it tells me the unit is actually delivering meaningful power through universal serial bus type C, not just trickle charging. I also tried it with a MacBook Pro because that is an easy way to see whether a portable station can keep up with a real laptop under use. I saw it hovering around 45 to 50 watts during my test, and the laptop charged at basically a normal pace while I was working. It did not feel like the laptop was losing ground while plugged in, which is what happens with weaker power banks. On top, there is a wireless charging pad. I used it with an iPhone 14 Pro. It started charging right away, and it is convenient when you are trying to keep cables under control. I will say, wireless charging is still wireless charging. It is not the most efficient way to move energy, and it is slower than a good cable. I see it as a nice extra for topping off, not the main way I would keep a phone charged if I am trying to conserve battery. There is also an uninterruptible power supply function, which is one of the more practical features if you deal with unreliable power. Here is what I did. I plugged the unit into the wall, and I plugged a couple of small electronics into the unit. Then I simulated a power outage by cutting the wall power. The switch over was quick enough that the devices I had connected stayed on. I would not use this as a replacement for a dedicated enterprise-style backup system for sensitive equipment, but for home internet gear, a small desk setup, or keeping a monitor alive long enough to save work, it did what I needed it to do. The built-in light is simple, but I ended up using it more than I thought. When you lose power at night, even a small light on the unit helps you see the ports and buttons without grabbing your phone flashlight. It is also handy if you are using it outdoors and you just want a little area light. Charging and day-to-day use have been predictable. I like products that do not surprise me, and this one has been that way. You turn on the section you want to use, you plug in your devices, and you watch the display to make sure you are not asking too much of it. The fan noise is there when it is working harder, which is normal. It is not silent, but it has not been annoying in my use. The main thing I had to get used to is that you need to think ahead. If you drain it running a television and a fan for hours, you do not magically get that battery back unless you plan time to recharge. As far as a mobile app, my real stance is that I do not want an app to be required for a power station to be usable. I want the hardware to stand on its own. With this unit, the screen and controls already cover what I need most of the time. If you like checking status from your phone, an app can be a bonus, but I still judge it by whether I can walk up to it and understand what is happening in 5 seconds. Here, I can. After using it in normal situations, I think the strengths are pretty clear. The size is manageable. The port selection covers the devices I actually use. The universal serial bus Type-C charging is legitimately useful for modern phones and laptops, and the display makes it easy to manage power without guesswork. The limitations are also clear. The battery is not huge, so you have to be realistic about runtime. It is meant for smaller loads and shorter windows, not for running energy-hungry appliances for a long time. Wireless charging is convenient but not efficient. And like any portable station, you need to be mindful of what you plug in so you do not overload it. Overall, my impression is that this is a practical, easy-to-live with portable power station for the kind of everyday backup and off-grid use most people actually do. It has been reliable in my tests, and it has behaved the way I expect a well-designed unit to behave, which is honestly what I want most from something that is supposed to be there when power is not. Check the comments of this video for a link to see the current pricing of the ALLPOWERS R600 Solar Generator. Thank you for watching.